Hey everybody, Andrew Cherin, attorney at law here. I'm a Seattle personal injury lawyer. I represent people who are injured in car accidents. And today I'm excited to bring you another edition of my video blog. Today's episode is a driving tip of the day. So today's driving tip of the day of the law has to do with crosswalks. So in Seattle, there's a lot of crosswalks and there's a lot of people downtown, especially during rush hour, that try to cross the street while you're trying to take a left or right, and you see the do not walk sign start to blink on the crosswalk. So what does that mean? A lot of people don't know exactly, what that means. Does it mean that the pedestrian can keep walking? Is it like the red light rule for driving? Where if the light turns yellow, a car can still enter the intersection in Seattle based on the law, and it's not considered running a red light. However, when you're crossing a street and the pedestrian sign starts to blink, that actually means do not enter the crosswalk. If you're in the crosswalk, you can continue to exit that crosswalk, and the countdown is showing when the light's going to change, and you better get out of that intersection because traffic's going to start coming that way. But it does not mean keep walking across the street. You have enough time to do that. Now, on the counter of that is so the law that surrounds this code is Seattle Municipal Code 115280, which says that once the do not cross symbol or hand symbol guy shows up in that crosswalk sign, pedestrians are not allowed to get into the intersection at that time. So therefore, anyone that's doing that should be getting a ticket from a police officer. But I don't know if a lot of police officers even think of that rule or they even want to enforce that rule, because I've never seen it enforced. Not to mean that it's not being enforced, but that's technically the law. They're not supposed to be entering the intersection of that crosswalk anymore. They're supposed to be stopping and allowing traffic to take a right or a left at that time. And this is kind of why in Seattle you start to see some of these crosswalks become all-way crosswalks, because the traffic gets so pushed back and congested because only one car is being allowed to turn right or left at a time. It's pushing traffic way back. But these all-way crosswalks symbols allow for traffic to move regularly and freely and get congestion out of downtown Seattle, where it's very congested at certain times. I should know, I drive that route all the time. Um, but what does that mean for liability if you're hit by somebody that jumps out into, you're crossing the street and you're hit by somebody and you stepped in the crosswalk while it was blinking? Well, it kind of depends. The law is more on favor of the car. However, only if you jumped at the last second. If they should have seen you, that's going to be more liability on their side. And in Washington, there's liability statutes that say that if you were 50-50 at fault, you're still going to recover your 50%. Even if you're 90% at fault, you're going to recover that 10% that you weren't at fault. So there's ways that someone that's a pedestrian that's hit by a car is obviously going to suffer far more damages than the car or driver itself in most situations, you would think. So that pedestrian is going to recover something. 10% of $100,000 is $10,000 versus 90% of no damage is nothing. So in that case, the pedestrian is going to be owed that 10% or $10,000. So anyways, I hope you guys have found this useful, and I hope you guys aren't in this situation where you're in a car accident, with especially being a pedestrian. But I give free consultations, so feel free to give me a call. My number is 206-850-6716. There's a lot of good information on my website, www.lawsharing.com.